Good evening. Welcome to Talking Politics. I'm your host this evening, Mia Scanga. And tonight you're going to be meeting 3 more of those 5 candidates running for the Jersey City Board of Ed. This is part 2, okay? So I don't want to repeat everything I said on part 1, but the election is Tuesday, November 8th, and the polls are open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's a huge, monstrous ballot, so I strongly recommend that you review your sample ballot, which you'll get about a week before the election, because we have the governor's race, the mayoral race with 2 full slates, that's 20 candidates, the freeholders race, and the Board of Ed. And the Board of Ed candidates are in column J. So, and I'm sure there's going to be, a few referendum questions as well on the ballot. So, like I said before, in part 1, there are 3 positions available for a 3-year term, and you're going to be meeting all 5 of those candidates who are running, and 1 position for a 1-year term. And unfortunately, like I said before, in part 1, they weren't available today because of scheduling issues. So why don't we start with you, Lorenzo? Okay. Why don't you tell us, because you're an incumbent.
Yes.
Right. And how long have you been on the Board of Ed?
This is my 3rd year of my first term.
First term. Okay.
Yes.
So you're running for re-election.
Yes.
Right. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running again.
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Jersey City. I was born, raised, and educated in Jersey City, including in college at St. Peter's University. And I have a bachelor's and master's in accounting. Mm-hmm. And it's been a great experience for the last 18 years, advocating at school board meetings, and for the last 3 years being a school board member on the opposite side of the table, advocating through policy for young people and giving them an opportunity at a great education.
Okay, fine. And Amy, you started in January, right?
Yes, I was appointed to the special seat.
Okay, and that was because
John Reichardt's.
Right, he had resigned in November.
Yes.
So? Oh, okay, fine. So, this is you're now running for a full 3-year term.
Yes, to
okay.
have a full term.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
So, I'm also born and raised in Jersey City. Mm-hmm. I attended Montclair State University and got my teaching degree and specialized in social studies. I currently am an educator at County Prep High School, and I'm very involved in my community and would like to bring the perspective from inside of the classroom. I'm also a union leader. I'm the vice president of my teaching association, and I am also very into technology, so I'd like to bring those aspects to the school as well.
Okay, fine. Yousef?
Hi, thank you, Mia. My name is Yousef Saleh, and I'm running for the Jersey City Board of Education, ballot position 2J. Check out salehforjc.com. And essentially, I was born and raised in Jersey City. I attended public school my whole life. I went to Head Start, PS 28, McNair Academic, Rutgers, New Brunswick, and Rutgers Law School, all public schools. And I have over 10 years of advocacy for students in the public realm. I served as the president of McNair Academic High School, and I served on the Jersey City Board of Education as a student representative. I served as president at Rutgers University in New Brunswick. I served as president at Rutgers University School of Law in Newark. And I was also the commencement speaker. I'm a community activist. I fought in Trenton, I fought in DC, and I fought locally to make sure that children have the resources that they need, that students have the resources that they need to succeed. And I hope you vote for me November 7th, 2017.
Okay. All right, that's great. Now, you mentioned you were an activist. So, can you tell us some of the accomplishments? Or
Yes, gladly. So,
related to Jersey City education.
Well, essentially, we have this affects all of New Jersey. Mm-hmm. Back in 2010, Chris Christie tried to cut funding by over $2 billion, I believe, to the school system. Mm-hmm. And I helped organize a rally with the NJEA, the NAACP in Trenton. Mm-hmm. We had over 35,000 people, the union members, people from every university, every walk of life came down to Trenton to fight Chris Christie because he was advocating draconian cuts. In fact, they ended up getting overturned by the New Jersey Supreme Court, those cuts, because under the New Jersey Constitution, you have to make sure you have a fair, equitable, and just funding formula. And we were able to have all of that overturned, through public pressure, through the court system, and that is one of the accomplishments that I've had.
Okay, terrific. Now, Amy, you've been there just since January. Is there anything in particular that you feel most proud about, or something that you want to continue with?
Absolutely. I've gotten really involved with the technological solutions. As I said, I'm very much into technology, especially how it applies to educational technology, and I have my master's degree in that as well. As an educator, I began the pilot iPad program, and I helped implement Google Suite throughout my own district. So I'm really encouraged to see what Jersey City is doing with their technology and how they're helping implement that in the classroom for assessment, for curriculum, and to have some more student-led activities through technology. We've been looking at some of their professional development, some of the software programs that they're using, as well as some of the technical issues that some of the schools deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, fine. And Lorenzo, you've been there 3 years, more or less, close to. So what would you consider like your best achievement or most proud of as being a board member?
Wow, I mean, there's so many things that we have achieved. We have increased student achievement.
Now, what about in terms of yourself?
In
that
terms
you feel,
of myself,
yeah,
personal accomplishments?
right. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, the advocacy on not only through the board, but as the newly elected president of the Hudson County School Board Association, I advocate and I go around the state talking to other school board members, going back and forth to Trenton, of course, protesting. You see me out there every now and then, as well as on a national level.
Right.
And I'm also involved with the NAACP because I'm a life member, and I'm a member also of the New Jersey Association of Black Educators, which focuses on issues that deal with the achievement gap with African American students as well.
Oh, all right, fine. Now, since you're an incumbent and been there a couple of years and the state cut back on the funding, what was that, $14.5 million? I mean, what are your thoughts? Because I took a look, and this is public information. A lot of the information, I'm going to flash on some graphs. Hopefully you can see them on the screen. And I will also, the website address for the Jersey City JCBOE Board of Ed, and they have the user-friendly budget, which has a wealth of information, as well as the projected budget, which they prepared in April, and then in July, the state comes in, and they cut, I think was, how much was it, 8.5?
$8.5 million.
Yeah, $8.5 million. So that information online is not quite accurate now, but I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Like, from what I can see, I mean, where are they going to cut? I mean, the enrollment has gone up. It keeps going up. And the funding keeps coming down. And the Jersey City taxpayers are pretty much fixed at 2% increases.
Well, one of the things we have to work on is, which is going to be key, is advocacy. Giving, our real story on what the real cost of educating our children in the district is. But not only that, looking at the resources that are needed, because even before the cuts, we had issues with not having enough funding. Our superintendent said herself on record at a public meeting that we're about $90 million underfunded. And so when we look at those issues and look at where we need to spend money, the priorities have to be where the need is the greatest. And so that's the focus of our efforts. We've created, with some of the members of the board, a committee for public school funding, and then we also created another committee that deals with trying to find other sources of revenue. So we're looking at those things, and we're hoping that we can, of course, with the specter of the state looking at what will they do next, because you never know what they will do. We are trying to be vigilant, so whatever they try to do, we're going to be prepared to try to do our best to make sure that we have adequate funding for our students, because that's our priority.
Sure. No, I understand. Amy, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, how do you see the future with shrinking state aid, 2% fixed on the Jersey City taxpayers? From what I look, they've cut capital spending. they're going to have layoffs eventually, and
we hope not.
And you have enrollment that's going up.
And will continue to go up,
Absolutely,
especially when you
with
see
all the
all
building
of the development in Jersey City. You know, people are
Absolutely.
staying. People want to stay here with their children, raise their families here. It's not just young people coming to rent an apartment for a few years. They're buying homes and they want to stay. To piggyback off of Lorenzo, I was there when Dr. Lyles had said that, the $90 million. We're looking into more grant writing initiatives because the district is proposing such great, phenomenal programs for alternative education, even vocational training, but can't afford to do it with the existing budget. So it would be really important for us to take on some grant writing initiatives and to also utilize the community. These businesses and developers that are coming in should come and educate the students on what the in-need jobs are going to be and what training they're going to need for them, and maybe take more of a closer look and have a bigger part in that.
Right, right. Yousef, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mia. We face a very historic election right now. After nearly 30 years, the public school system is we're finally given control from Trenton, over the public school system. So this is the first time we have local control, and yet we had an $8.5 million decrease in funding. It's like giving us the keys to a car, but taking out the gas. Now, for all the advocacy that my friends over here have spoken about, it has not, yielded anything because we had a 2% cut in funding over 8.5 million. So we need to make sure we have vigorous advocates, who are willing to take the fight to Trenton, who are willing to engage with local leaders, to ensure that the funding is there for our public school system. We need to make sure abated properties are paying their fair share into our school system.
They're not paying anything.
Exactly.
They're paying nothing.
So,
I'm glad to hear somebody mention tax abatements. I just don't understand why that's not a bigger issue with the school district saying, we have a free 3- and 4-year-old program, so you have all these people renting apartments. They save a bundle of money with free 3- and 4-year-old program, but that tax abated property doesn't pay anything to the schools.
So it does take a village, Mia, and I believe we need to engage all these partners. We need to make sure that we're reaching out to local leaders, statewide officials, and the Jersey City Board of Ed used to have a grant writing program, and then it got cut. So we need to bring it back. We need to have vigorous advocates on our behalf. People who know how to negotiate, but also know when to take the fight to Trenton.
Yeah.
Or how about Jersey City Hall?
That too.
Because the mayor keeps 100% of the tax abatements and 5% goes to the county over and above, and nothing goes to the schools.
I think the city hall.
I think Trenton says, hey, enough already with these tax abatements. Go after, the people in the suburbs, and I'll flash that up on the screen. I did a user-friendly query on like the top 10 cities in New Jersey, and almost all of them, except for the Abbott districts, over 50% of their tax dollars go to the schools. That's where the money's going, but in Jersey City, it's going to Jersey City. They get 50%.
And, for a long time, Jersey City has had a target on its back and continues to have one in Trenton. This is not the first mayor to abate properties.
Right.
And he is making strides in having shared services with Jersey City Recreation and amongst
that was
others.
to fill this gap.
There are other opportunities, though, with the local police and everything, just trying to have some shared city services, and he's taken a big role in that. And I do believe that in the future, abated properties will not be abated fully, that they will have to give something to the school district to sustain it. And we also have to look in not expanding any more charters in our neighborhood as well. People are all for school choice, and there should be school choice. I'm a Catholic school graduate. But when it's taking away from the limited budget that we have and the flat funding that we have, it is just not necessary.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, I don't think I totally agree with that, because first of all, charter schools have to come up with their facilities. And, when Gerald was on for part 1, he talked about, they built 2 new schools, they're at full capacity. I've heard there's sometimes in some classrooms, like the lower grades, there's 40 pupils in a classroom. That's what I've heard. So the chartered schools take away some of that student population with their own facilities, and they seem to get paid less than what the public schools, because they don't have, you know, the same overhead, and I think they pay their teachers less, that type of thing.
Much less.
Yeah, much less. So it's all those factors. So I don't think that solves the problem, because the state pays for building the schools, and if they don't want to really build any more schools and you have more population, you better hope that the charters start picking up some of these students.
I think
I
think what happened, you know, in Trenton, regardless of the amount of abated properties within Jersey City, what they did was unconscionable, because we have an $8 million funding gap now that is going to impact tens of thousands of students in different ways. If I told you that there are 10 kids in the classroom and I could only provide for 8 of them, that 2 of them were not going to be able to succeed because we don't have the resources to help them, how that should rile you up.
Then what's the solution? If the suburbs are paying more than 50% of their tax bill to the schools, and Jersey City's paying, like, I'll have it on the screen, like 24%. Suburbs are saying, hey, pay your own freight. You got $1 million condos on the waterfront selling for $2, $3, $4 million. Why don't they pay?
Well, there's a mix of a problem here, because you have, you know, the people that have moved in, many of them have much higher incomes than the people who typically had lived here prior.
Right.
So you have a increasing median income. So they think we're a rich city now, but they don't understand that the vast amount of the population is still 77+%.
Yeah, but the vast majority of the population, like this area where I'm in right now, they don't have a tax abatement. They pay school taxes, all right? The people who are coming in with the higher income, who are moving to Newport, Exchange Place, or whatever, even Journal Square, which the mayor gave away one Journal Square, $1,200 to $1,400 a year per apartment, which is a joke, plus we bonded for them. Those are the people who have the tax abatement, not your working class people. They're paying full freight.
I agree. We're hurting on that level, but that's why not only have I advocated on the school board level, and of course in Trenton, but you see me at city council meetings as well. When they gave away the land to Liberty Science Center, that was a big deal.
That was $200 million worth of land. We still can't get an appraisal on it.
We have a space issue downtown that we're trying to address.
Right.
And how do you give away land in that vicinity? And literally, there's no more room.
Right.
And you can't put another child anywhere downtown, particularly number 16 school.
Now, where's that located?
That's located at the foot of Grand Street.
Oh,
near
all
the
right.
waterfront.
Yes, right. I know that
And there is
school.
no more room there.
Right.
When I say no more room, literally no more room.
Right.
And so we have a major problem there that we're trying to alleviate, and trying to move things around and gather space from some of these developers or some of the land that's being held by JCRA, that would be helpful, because when you build all these structures so high with so many units, you have to think that somebody's going to have a child.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They definitely have children. And I'll tell you, a couple of years ago with a couple of other activists, very bright, and we asked through a board member, we wanted a listing, and there should be no privacy issues, and maybe you guys can do this. And I would have thought that the board that the school district would have done that. Just go in by address, all the tax abated properties, and how many children are in each building, right? And you might have to do it by grade, because I've heard there's different funding levels for primary compared to high school. Different grade. Calculate what the cost is to the school district to have that child. Let's compare it to the tax abatement, and I'm sure many of these buildings are a major loss. And we couldn't get that information. We just couldn't get that information. And you would think that if you were, head of a school district where your population is increasing, and just to give you some stats, from October 15, 2015 to 2018, there's an increase of 1,205 students. That's a 3.4 increase. But the funding from the state from September 2010 through June of 2018 is down 3.4%, and the feds are down 10.5%. You think you'd have a problem here. You might want to say, hey, listen, I want to compare this and see what these school tax abated properties, how they're impacting but we couldn't get any of the information,
Well, one of the things that might be a potential solution, and I'm hoping that this could be helpful, when we get federal dollars, those dollars are extremely restricted. So I just left the School Board Association meeting this morning and before coming here. And so because the state had to file under ESSA on how they're going to, address public education, they submitted their plan. And so one of the things that are allowed within ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act, they're going to allow more flexibility with the Title I money. Now, but how that plays out and how it gets implemented is going to be key, because we're going to have to put the resources where they're needed the most, of course, in the classroom. But when it comes to facilities, the state has the responsibility of building those.
Right.
So
That's
now
true. It's their dime.
Yeah, and that creates the problem, because we had projects that we had online, but I don't know what happened to some of those pieces of land, but I don't know if they were given back or sold or taken. But there was an early childhood center on Martin Luther King. There was a couple other sites, and we don't know if or when another school would be able to come online. So we did something creative recently, about a year ago, where we talked about doing a school on the bottom floor, I think on Columbus.
No, I understand. I understand.
But I'm a little apprehensive about that, just
Right.
because having a living space and a school, and but,
Right. I think it's really for the benefit of the developer to have the school in the basement, and then we pick up the cost of that personally. So, I mean, any other thoughts or?
I think for all the talk of this advocacy, the status quo has obviously failed, and we need bold new leadership at the Board of Education. This has been a slow-moving, train crash from 2001 all the way up until now, with these developers, coming in and getting tax-abated properties. Like, the fact that it was not on anyone's radar to go to City Council and to get, a resolution, ordinance passed saying that developers have to contribute to, the school system when they want to develop. That is a failure of leadership. The fact that, now we are forced to make these difficult choices with the students in this district, and families whose livelihoods depend on their jobs servicing our students and these families, like, this should have been thought about years ago.
Well, there should have been pressure from the school
there should have
to
been
the
rallies.
council people.
There should have been-
Well, for the record, our district, on behalf of the board, has written letters to the city regarding these issues, and we have had a committee of council members, board members meeting with council members.
Okay.
So that
Yeah, Gerald
dialogue
mentioned
has
that.
been happening.
Right.
But remember, we don't hold the purse strings.
Right.
So either we're getting the money from the city, or we're getting the money from the state,
Right.
or the federal government.
And a little bit from the feds.
Right. So we can advocate, but it's up to those entities to do the right thing by our children.
Right.
So those are the things that we have been doing, and that has been active not only since we've been on the board, but in terms of myself and Mr. Lyons, but of course with Amy now, because she's now been appointed. But prior to Amy's appointment, myself, Mr. Lyons, we have been advocating before we were on the board. So that process has not, ended at any point, and we continue to have those conversations. And we have committees. If you look at some of the committee meetings, mine are finance, so we have discussions about some of these issues. But if you look at the caucus meetings, you'll see a lot of these things being discussed, which a lot of people don't attend, unfortunately.
Yeah, well,
but a lot
you
of that
can't speak at a
information is there.
caucus meeting. I can't say that I watch them myself, especially now that they're no longer on Channel 1. So, Amy, are you on one of these committees?
The technological solutions.
Okay, that's
But
fine.
to, again, piggyback off of Lorenzo, he goes through each check and all of the spending with a fine-tooth comb. When we get these humongous agenda books sometimes, and you just see check number and prices and numbers, and you're assuming that has to be the ballpark. And Lorenzo really taught myself and the other board members on what to look for, what the important numbers are, and some of the cost-saving measures, things that we can do in-house and amongst other things, because we are very, very much strapped. We do not want to lay off a single person, board members nor the administration.
Sure, no, I can understand that. Now, I don't understand, since you two are incumbents, just real quick, why do we have to send students out of district? And I heard that the cost is really high. I mean, we're the second largest school district in the state. Why do we have to send to another district, which I've heard is at an exorbitant cost?
Well, the primary reason is there are occasions, and this is not just limited to our district.
Right.
This is around the entire state. And
Right.
you have some states that send to regional schools.
Right.
But the issue is that there are some needs that students meet that the district does not have the capacity or the resources to provide. And so you have some schools that are specialized that those students are sent to, and there's a cost to that. And so that's part of the IEP. So that's under federal law, and you have to make sure that those needs are being met.
Oh,
So
all right.
it's not like it's an option.
Okay, well, we're running out of time again. So why don't we start with you, Lorenzo? Why should people vote for you?
Well, my name is Lorenzo Richardson, and my ballot position is J4. And J, of course, you know, I think if you know my advocacy over the years, you know that I stand for justice for our children and making sure that all the needs of every child is being met in our school district. I don't care where they live, but I know that the space issues, the issues that I hear about the food, the issues that I hear about the quality of the cost of things, everything from A to Z, I always try to address and question those things. And I am very, very adamant about it. I don't let go. I think I'm a great fighter, and I've been doing a lot of that work for many years, and I would like to continue that.
Okay, Amy?
After this past November, I had a big wake-up call on what politics does and how it will affect my life, my children's lives, and everyone else's. I want to be on the school board. I want to be elected on the school board to provide the educator perspective and to stay on top of the local politics around us and to help gear the local school district in the right direction.
Okay.
1J.
Okay. Yousef?
Jersey City, I am a byproduct of the public school system. I'm a loyal son, went through the public school system my whole life, and you need new leadership at the Board of Education because the status quo will not do. We have $8 million in funding cuts. That's going to impact your children. We need to stop playing the blame game and ensure we have vigorous advocates out on the streets, in City Hall, in Trenton, and in DC. And I am your guy. I have over 10 years of advocacy for students, and I've had successful results throughout my whole life. Vote 2J for Yousef Saleh. Thank you so much.
Well, I want to thank the three of you for being on, and thank you so much for watching. Please tell your friends and neighbors about this show, which also streams on YouTube for years and off the website. I think there's 18, and now we'll have 20 shows on YouTube. And don't forget to vote on Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you for watching. Good night.